This video is sponsored by Anker. I've used an Apple Watch for years now, and it really is an amazing device. You can make calls or text from it, make payments, look at emails, news, and of course, there's a plethora of health features that you get with it that have real advantages. It's gotten to the point where you could potentially use it in place of a phone, but strapping all that power to your wrist does come with some trade-offs. It can end up turning into a distraction with all the features and notifications, and even cause health anxiety with constant biometric feedback at the touch of a finger. That's one of the reasons why I took my Apple Watch off for 2 months in the new year, and why I've been interested in fitness trackers with no screens. So when the Fitbit Air was announced, it was definitely something that I wanted to try out. I've been using it now for the past 2 weeks or so, and comparing it against the Apple Watch experience, there's a lot that I absolutely love about this thing, but there are times where I still miss the Apple Watch. If you're someone who is trying to balance tracking your health with convenience and features, and you're deciding between these models or ones like these, there's a lot to unpack here. The Apple Watch and the Fitbit Air are two very different devices, but if you take a look at the marketing material for each product, the primary purpose for each is essentially the same thing: tracking your health. How they do that, or how they work, and what features get added on top of that are largely due to how these devices are designed, and I think they can both lead to very different outcomes, even if they do have the same foundational goal. In regards to the Fitbit Air, this is very minimal, so no screen or any visual feedback at all. You just get this little pod unit that fits into the band and straps onto your wrist, and the whole thing only weighs 12 grams, so you barely feel it at all. It is mostly plastic outside of the stainless steel clasp, so you don't get the same premium build materials in aluminum and titanium like the Apple Watch, but it is still water resistant up to 50 meters, and it's only $100 versus a minimum of about $250 for the cheapest Apple Watch. So I'm totally fine with that. The Air is also a lot more comfortable than the Apple Watch, regardless of which model or size you choose. I've worn every size over the years, from the 40 or 41 millimeter to the 45 and 46, and now the Ultra. And I've always felt a bit uncomfortable with all of them when I sleep, or even when I work out at times. If I'm doing anything on the floor or with my wrists bent like push-ups, I always find the edges can dig in a bit. And more often than not, I'll end up hitting the crown in the middle of a workout and going to another screen. I obviously don't have that issue at all with a Fitbit Air, although I can't see anything related to my workouts, which I will get into in a bit, but I found the standard performance loop band on the Air doesn't hold on to sweat or moisture like the Alpine Loop does on my Ultra 3, which is a bonus as well. Mine is this lavender color that's more like a powder blue than what I would consider lavender, and you don't have a ton of choice as far as bands go. There are basically 3 to choose from by Google, and there's not a whole lot of third-party sellers, which is a huge benefit you get with the Apple Watch, or any Apple product really. Even with chargers, you've got so many different options with the Apple Watch, from third-party stands to 3D printable ones like I use, where you can just insert the standard charger. The Apple Watch can also charge my AirPods, and it's completely wireless, where the Fitbit Air charger is probably one of its weaker points. It has a strange-looking 2-pin connector that attaches to the bottom of the pod, and I do worry about durability with something like this long-term. But the nice thing is, you only have to put the Air on the charger about once a week, as it does have a 7-day battery life, versus the Apple Watch that you're likely charging every day or two. I've only charged the Air a few times since I've been using it, and I've been working out with it daily, tracking my sleep and all that good stuff, and it takes about 90 minutes to fully charge, so not quite as good as the Apple Watch that can charge between an hour and 75 minutes depending on the model, but again, perfectly fine for something that you're only going to charge once a week. Neither of them come with charging bricks though, so you will need your own. I prefer to use ones like this Anker Prime Charger that is supposed to be the world's most compact 160 watt multi-port charger. This can fold flat and is about the size of my AirPods Pros, so nice to travel with, and not only is it super portable, it can charge pretty much anything. I can plug in my MacBook Pro, iPad, and iPhone all at the same time without needing multiple chargers or outlets, or sacrificing anything in terms of charging speed. With any device, including these bands, PowerIQ 5.0 reads each device and shifts power to wherever it's needed every 2 minutes. So it is very efficient, and it also stays very cool thanks to ActiveShield 4.0, which runs 10 million plus temperature checks per day. Charging itself is quite complicated, and Anker's always a brand I trust with it. They break down the engineering behind it on their site if you want to learn more, and I will have a link to this charger down below. Now, battery is obviously greatly affected by what these devices offer, and looking at features side by side, even the cheapest Apple Watch is going to have loads more capabilities over this Fitbit Air, which can make the experience vastly different. The Air can't do anything screen-related, so there's no notifications, no sending or receiving texts, checking the weather, listening to music with headphones paired to the band, or any of that stuff. For some folks, you might really want that set of features, and it can be genuinely useful, but I know personally, the more tech I get, the more I kind of want to distance myself from things that I can just do on a phone or a computer. And I don't need the constant feedback loop strapped to my wrist. That's the main reason why I didn't use any wearable for a couple of months, and even when I put the Apple Watch back on, I basically turned off all notifications and just used it more like a watch with a fitness tracker. And I actually still have a habit of looking at the Fitbit to check the time, even after wearing it for a couple of weeks, which has been slightly annoying. Beyond that though, you're still giving up some great features with a band like the Air or a Whoop, where you no longer get live feedback from workouts on your wrist, showing your heart rate or the time. Say if you're out on a run or something, and you don't get the same ecosystem benefits like unlocking your Mac with a watch, using Find My to ping your phone, and all that good stuff, and there is a bit more friction setting things up with connectivity on the Fitbit Air. When I first started setting things up, I had a lot of trouble with the Air where it didn't want to initially connect, and I had to fiddle around in Bluetooth settings on my phone before it finally worked. And even now, I still get times where the app will tell me that it can't connect to it, and I've got to constantly resync. The Fitbit Air runs entirely through the Google Health app, and if you're familiar with the Apple Health and Fitness apps, this is kinda like those two combined into one. There's a main tab that shows you your main metrics at a glance, and a fitness tab where you can start workouts or look at previous ones. Sleep gives you more sleep info, and health gives you more detailed health info, similar to what you'd see viewing all health data in Apple Health. I kinda like that it all lives in one app, and I wish that Apple would do the same with fitness and health, but truthfully, Google Health has probably been the weakest point of this whole experience. It does seem to work slightly better on Android, but iOS still feels pretty clunky, where not only have I had issues with connectivity, but there are some things here that you can't do. Like, I can import my health data from Apple Health to here, but it can't go the other way. Google says that they are working on this, but even outside of that, apps like Ladder that I use to work out can't natively connect or show live information and auto-track like the Apple Watch does. You've got to do it all manually. Now, that may be in part because Google is using their own proprietary Bluetooth profile for broadcasting heart rate, and third-party support for heart rate monitoring is a bit of a mixed bag, but tracking workouts within the app has worked quite well, with a couple of exceptions. Anything that I've manually tracked has worked well, and I get similar results with my Apple Watch with detailed info on the workout itself, but I have had a few issues with auto-tracking. The Air is supposed to track up to 5 different workout types, including walking and running. I've never had an issue with it tracking my walks, and the nice thing about auto-tracking on here is that it just starts and ends the workout on its own, versus on the Apple Watch where it'll prompt you to start a workout and then you've got to manually end it. But I've had the Fitbit completely miss tracking runs. Now, to its credit, Google does let you go in and manually log the workout or edit complete ones, which Apple doesn't do, and and I kind of wish they would add. Sometimes I forget to end workouts on the Apple Watch and they'll run for 10 or 20 minutes before Apple will ask me if I'm finished. And it would be nice to go in and edit them like you can in Google Health, but there's still one big issue with this Fitbit. The Air has no native GPS like the Apple Watch does, so when you start a run or a walk, it'll use your phone's GPS through Bluetooth. So say if I go on a run and it doesn't track it, when I log it manually, it just shows up as 0 distance, which is a bit of a bummer. On top of that, I found the distance is a bit off as well. It seems to be about 500 meters off at times over longer runs. Again, you can correct it in the app afterwards, but there's also no split breakdown or map of the run like you get with the Apple Watch, and it feels a tad basic if you're used to looking at that stuff. Sleep is a lot better, where things seem to track fairly similar between each device. I can't say for sure how accurate either is because I'm not awake when it's tracking, but the metrics do look pretty close to each other. The Fitbit Air is supposed to have nap detection on it, and I tried to test that out, but it didn't register the one app that I did have with it on. And I suppose I should briefly touch on the subscription services here as well. Google Health Premium is included in the purchase price of the Air, free for 3 months, and then you're charged $10 a month. And that gives you a Gemini-powered health coach, which I really have no interest in. The whole point I got this was because it gives you all this health data for $100 without any subscription. And it seems like that service has been plagued by hallucinations and bugs, so I haven't even tried it, to be completely honest. Apple has their own Fitness Plus subscription that I have tried, and that gives you a bunch of workouts that you can do on any Apple device, including the Apple TV, where it'll auto-start and end your workout and project your metrics on the screen, which is kind of cool, but I don't use that, and the Apple Watch is loaded with other features that I often don't even think about. There's Apple Pay, sleep apnea notifications, vitals monitoring, crash detection, built-in speakers, noise monitoring, and so on, and it's like a Swiss Army knife in a lot of ways. But I do think that there's something to be said for a minimal product like the Fitbit Air that just does a few things that you need it to, without doing too much or overwhelming you with a bunch of info that you don't need to consume all the time. I do think that there are some things with the Air that do feel a lot more basic than an Apple Watch, and Google still has their work cut out to clean up bugs within the app and with syncing, but for $100 USD, I still think that there is a lot of value here. For how much minimalism plays a part in Apple's design, the actual functionality of the Apple Watch really doesn't seem minimal at all, and I think there's a huge opportunity for Apple to make a similar product. Even if it is a little more expensive, but it takes the best parts of the Apple Watch and narrows down the feature set, an Apple Fitness Band would probably be a big hit in my opinion. With all that being said, I am curious to know where you guys land on this. Do you prefer using a smartwatch or a fitness band, and are either of these products on your radar? Let me know in the comments down below. That's all I've got for you today. If you want to see more tech-related content or see if Google's AI coach can help me become the songbird of my generation, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next upload.